welcome to the second episode of the Cruel Angels podcast. This time we're going to be discussing episodes 3 and 4 of Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm Brad. I've been an Eva fan for going on a decade at this point, and I'm joined by Pat, who is a brand new viewer.
Hello, yeah, I've never seen it before. Oh, the first 2 episodes.
Yes.
Well, now 3 and 4. But.
And Kenzie over here, who is the opposite of an Eva fan?
Yeah, I don't like it, but I respect it.
An Eva skeptic.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll call her.
It's a show.
It's a show. It's not for me, but it is for some people.
All right, so last episode, our very first episode, kind of jumped right into things and didn't really recap what was going on. So this time we're going to start by just reading straight off of Pat's raw notes that he took while watching the episode to give us a starting point. So take it away, Pat.
So I'm not really good with names, so if you've seen it, you'd figure it out. So Shinji's a broken boy that now gets beat up at school by a bully rather than being berated by his father. Also, for a secret mech operation, everyone knows that Shinji's a pilot for some reason. This character, not Otacon is what I'm calling him, wants to go up and see the fight happening.
For those who don't know who that is, it's Kensuke, the kid with the glasses.
Yeah, not Otacon. Shinji gets called an idiot for literally doing everything he's been trained to do in combat, center, target, and shoot. He saves his classmates and shanks an angel and then cries about it. And I have a very strong feeling that this is going to become a trend.
So that was Pat's notes for episode 3. So just to translate that, Shinji starts going to school, meets some kids, but is instantly beat up by one of them who blames him for his sister getting injured, and then does manage to defeat an angel, but is still berated and ridiculed for doing so. Pat, I could guess based on the way you're reading it, there was some anger there.
I don't understand why everyone is so mean to this kid. Mm-hmm. It didn't make sense the first episode. It didn't make sense the second episode. This third episode literally starts with him like beaten and broken like into being like a war dog. Mm-hmm. Like you just do what you're told to the point where like he's a machine. And even though it's like a simulation at the start, he's doing it. He's getting it done. Literally like monotonous, like center, shoot. And he's doing it. And then what I thought like the thing was going to come down to is like when he's actually encountering the next angel, I thought it was going to be like he freezes up because it's not a simulation.
Right.
Not the case. He comes right out. It looks sick. I was like, oh, look, he's been training. Like I was actually like impressed with the shot. Uh-huh. And then he whips around the corner, centers, shoots. He lands all the shots. Like, you're an idiot. You shouldn't have done that. That's all you taught him.
He literally calls him an idiot for shooting at the angel and creating too much smoke so he couldn't see.
Like doing what he was trained to do. And then it turns into him getting his ass kicked because as far as I know, he hasn't been taught anything else.
Yeah.
He knew about having a knife.
Yeah.
But like we didn't see him use it. So maybe it's like he was aware of like what the thing had, but he's still training.
Yes.
But like, how is he an idiot for doing what he was trained to do?
Right. So the first 2 episodes, you know, in the heat of the moment, it would be hard to interpret people being mean to him as necessarily them actually disliking him. It was maybe more caught up in the moment. Although in this episode, when just even in training, it's almost like the people seem to have contempt for him for some reason. Like, I know Ritsuko said something like, oh yeah, he just does what he's told. He's a coward. That's how he lives his life. So it's very strange because one, they're talking about a child. On the other hand, they're the kind of the ones that broke him down into this sorry state to do, kind of molded them to their will. And then they're like, oh, what a loser. He just does whatever we tell him to do. It is very, very strange, very aggressive on their part, the way they speak about him.
It's a weird disconnect that I have because like if the show was different and if Shinji's character, it's like, oh, he's the son of the guy who ran this. So there's like nepotism there. It makes sense with like aggression, but he doesn't want to be there, reluctantly is doing it. And now he's good at doing what he was trained to do.
Right.
And there's still like pushback. So that's like the most aggravating part to me. Everything's sick. It's well drawn. I personally don't hate Shinji's character. I know I joke like in my notes like about him being whiny and crying, but like I don't blame him.
Right? How else would you react in a situation like that? And that's not even talking about who knows how bad his childhood was with that terrible father.
Yeah. But like it's the first 2 episodes, he's a bit whiny because he's reluctant, and now they've beaten him down and they make fun of him for, oh, he does what he's told. It's like, yeah, like you wanted him to do, and now that's a problem. And then, not to get too far ahead, but like when he goes off and does his own thing, they're still mad at him.
Right.
So there's no right thing. It's like, oh, we're mad at him because he does what we want him to do. But when he doesn't do what we want him to do and he gets it done,
Right.
it's still a problem.
Well, here's another thing. Is like this is also kind of mimicking the first episode where they're like, "Do more. Why aren't you doing more?" And now it's like, "No, don't do more. Why are you doing all of this? Retreat." And he still has embedded in his brain, "I mustn't run away.
Right.
I mustn't run away." And he's repeating that.
Yeah.
And he's doing the thing, and they're like, Shinji, why? And I'm like, it's because you people did it to
There
him.
is this sense that no matter what option he chooses, whether it's to submit to their requests blindly, to strike out and do his own thing, either way, they're going to be actively hateful towards him, whichever choice he does.
And it sucks because like he's doing what Nerve wants him to do, and then he gets picked on at school by his classmates, by
Yes.
Toji.
Yeah.
And now he fought the robot. The two classmates, Toji and Kensuke, now respect him, and he's like, "All right, F Nerve. I'm gonna get out of here." I don't know. I'm like a little all over the place right now.
Yeah, well, I think the situation
There's like,
in
if
the
he's not
school-
pleasing Nerve, he's pleasing the students. If he's not pleasing the students, he's pleasing Nerve, and everybody's upset with him.
Right. I think the situation in the school is a little different than his situation at Nerve. Maybe one, because they're all young people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, it's Toji's reaction to him, I feel like, comes from a little bit more of a genuine place in terms of like an emotional, he's a bit of a hothead.
Yeah.
He blames him for his sister being injured. That kind of thing. It doesn't seem to be the same kind of cruel contempt that the people at Nerve seem to have. You almost get the impression that everyone at Nerve has some sort of social disorder.
Yeah.
Whereas, unfortunately for Shinji, his social disorder is just to crumple up and like cry. Whereas everyone else's social disorder is to just actively dump on him for no
That's right.
reason.
You actually think that everyone at Nerve is a psychopath or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah, right.
But like, I don't get like the Crybaby vibe from him because I think it's justified, at least at this point.
Mhm.
It's like I feel genuinely bad for a person who's like, he manned up a bit, like I have to do this. No one had any faith in him.
Right. Well, and I think it
It's-
was kind of funny during the mission too, because it literally goes from when his classmates sneak out of the kind of shelter bunker to watch the fight happen, and then they end up way too close to the action. So Misato makes the judgment call for his students to quickly enter his cockpit to keep them safe. And Misato on the spot gets chewed out like, "You don't have the authority to do that." And
Yeah,
she's
Rage
like,
goes like, "You can't do that." Masato's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna. What
She's
are
like,
you
"I'm
gonna
gonna
do
do that
about
anyway."
it?
She's death glared her.
Yeah.
For like
Right.
a solid 5 seconds
and then
of like,
instantly Shinji disobeys her orders to retreat and defeats the angel, and then Misato kind of gets pissed off like, "Wait, whoa. I can break orders all the time and do
Yeah.
whatever I want, but you can't break orders. You have to follow
You're
the
just a
orders."
kid,
It actually
Shinji.
reminds me of I think the show's a little more self-aware, but kind of the problem, not to open a whole new can of worms, the whole conflict in the Last Jedi movie, the reason why I thought there was such a problem with it thematically was that you have a group of rebels, and it seemed like the movie was making arbitrary rules of when you're allowed to rebel and when you're not to.
yeah. I know
This
what you
show
mean.
seems a little bit more aware that their characters are acting in dysfunctional ways, but it seems that the nerve structure seems to have that same problem where sometimes being a rebel is acceptable and sometimes it's not.
Yeah. I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it's like, if he were to retreat, he gets his friends,
Mhm.
they go in there, let's say you're to retreat. How would that scene play out? He gets there and probably gets yelled at like for messing up.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, now we have to regroup and figure out how to defeat this thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Also, how is he supposed to retreat? So the way that the
Yeah, there wasn't enough time
Yeah,
to
the
get
way
out of
that
there.
Ava works is that it's plugged in with an umbilical cord that gives it energy and power. And when the umbilical cord is taken away, it was unplugged by the angel. They only have 5 minutes of
Right.
full power before the whole thing shuts down completely. Now, I don't know in what world Masato thought that whatever time Shinji had left would have been enough for him to retreat, but the answer is no. So Shinji
Yeah.
was in fight or flight mode and he picked the right option. He fought and he cried his eyes out, but he won.
Mhm.
Yeah. One thing I want to say though, I was really impressed with. I was waiting for them to not do it.
Uh-huh.
They made a point to show in the second episode that tank fills up with that orange liquid and
Yes,
it disappears.
but they kept it consistent.
Yeah, I was like, how are they going to get in there? Are they just going to appear in it? And then they made a note of like, is this water?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
so it looks
cool.
like they had to drain a little bit of it so they can go in there with him or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, those little, again, what we talked about, what we praised the first 2 episodes for, continues in this one. All those little details to show you that someone put some thought into how this machinery worked.
Yeah.
When he came up in the elevator.
The
you saw
elevator
the
was
little
so cool.
bolts kind of lock it in place before the door opened up. All those little details that made it seem like this is some serious engineering going on.
Yeah,
here.
and the other thing is when the city was sinking into the ground, it's like, sure, we knew that the city could do that. This is us. Was this the first time seeing it actually sink?
Yeah,
Because we've seen it raise.
Because it was surprised when you saw it raise before. So this time you actually actively saw the thing starting to sink
You
down.
got more in-depth shots about it, and that was really cool to see.
There was
And
this-
it just looks cool too. Like even forgetting the innovation of it, it's just cool to see machinery moving around and bolts locking into things and things twisting around.
I would have liked to have been inside one of those buildings. I don't care if I'm
As it
hanging
went
from the
down?
ceiling.
I don't
Yeah,
know,
it's
that
like
seems
so
kinda
cool.
be a high school student.
Oh, what?
But one thing I liked was it showed like a shot of like just like street lights, like it was like a street level shot, and then just out of nowhere, just like these like shutters like shot up out of the ground. So it's neat to see that it's like roads get blocked off, and then everything gets like sunken down.
It's really cool to see an animation art direction confident enough that this is kind of maybe a dumb way to say it, but it was animated as if it was live action.
Yeah.
Like, in other words,
Yeah.
these are just cool things that you would see in the environment of it. And even the fact that it's animated doesn't take away from the fact that it's not, quote unquote, not real.
Yeah, it looked great.
You know, it has the believability of the way it's done, and there's enough detail that you really felt what they were showing you was actually
That's a
happening.
really important part in world building. I've watched a lot of films where I've seen people get world building right and world building wrong. And they'll both essentially have the same things. As an example, to compare, since a movie came out called Mary and the Witch's Flower, and it's very similar to Studio Ghibli, where a girl is transported into this new magical world, but in Mary and the Witch's Flower, it doesn't feel like a big world. You're taking through all these different shots and scenes, and all this stuff is going on in the background, but it still doesn't feel real, as opposed to Spirited Away, where Chihiro's like running around the town, and it feels like a world lived in, and it's because there's a lot of thought into how someone would actually live there.
You get the sense with Spirited Away, and then also with Ava, that someone actually has a blueprint for the whole city. Like, someone knows actually where structures are located.
Yeah.
It's not just haphazard, like, oh, well, there has to be a building here for him to run into, so we'll just draw one there.
It's also about timing as well. So you can't just have everything happen at once. Like, the Evangelion takes its time with its shots, holding some longer than others. You actually seeing how it works, how it functions, and you giving yourself the time to take it in so that your brain can be like, so this is concrete. This is real.
Yes.
This is good. 10 out of 10. We'll watch again.
Yeah, one thing also is like there's a lot of action and reaction. So like it's not like all of a sudden the city sinks. It's almost like you there's always like some person making a command for it or flicking a switch.
Right.
There's a screw always turning, something moving. So it's like instead of it just being like do this and it turns on, you see like pistons start or something starts to move. It really feels like it's a functioning machine rather than just like it turned on now.
That's a good point. It's almost like even those scenes, even though it's focused on the technology and the architecture, it has, in a way, it has a narrative the same way a character scene would have. It's not just randomly showing you cool futuristic things. It's saying, this is the story of how a building goes underground.
Yeah.
You see how it happens, and then that's what keeps you interested in it, other than just the cool visuals. It's part of the story.
You know how you enter like evil villains' lairs and there's just like a bunch of blinking dials and screens and stuff like
whenever I
that?
enter a evil villain's
Yeah,
lair, I see all
like a
those
TV
blinking
show,
dials.
they
You know
show
when you
evil
do that.
villain's lair, and
Brad,
there's all
you know
these
when you do that.
monitors. You're like, well, what are these for? Well, in theory, this would be the perfect evil lair where you walk in, you actually see what everything means, and it gives you the time to tell you what everything does. So, like, you're going to be in this space for a while. You might as well know how it functions, because so far we've only been in New Tokyo 3. It doesn't feel like they're going to be going anywhere else for a while.
Right.
The other cool thing about it is, even though I know it's just a cartoon,
A good one.
but what I mean is in terms of like suspension of disbelief, like it's easier for me to do it. It's a cartoon, but instead of somebody going like, "Oh yeah, the city sinks into the ground," my brain is like, "How does that work?" Seeing that it like has a function, my brain doesn't even try to like explain like, "Well, how does this work?" Because they did such a good job of like showing it that my brain just is like, "Oh, that's a believable situation."
Yeah. There's a credibility and a confidence to the way it's portrayed that just makes you go along with it. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
That's just how the city works.
I think my favorite part is how like we're easily accepting a city that sinks underground versus how the people act in this goddamn show, where Nerv is just like shitting on this kid, and his classmates are shitting on this kid, and this kid's just getting the short stick every single time.
Well, wasn't it just one classmate shitting on him?
Well, here's the thing. Toji, the one who punched him, is the one who's shitting on him, but Kensuke just lets it happen. And I wrote this scene down. Kensuke's like, sorry, kid. Toji's got to get his anger out. Your fight injured his little sister. Like, Kensuke,
you had this coming, you idiot.
You just stood by and you rationalized why Shinji was getting punched.
So
I feel like that's worse.
It reminds me
because
of,
he's not trying to stop Toji. He's not trying to protect Shinji. He's just like, you know what, this is happening to you, and I'm going to tell you why. And I'm going to let it happen. And this is why I'm letting it happen. Like, that's fucked up.
Yeah.
Fuck Otacon.
So let's talk about those two characters. But before we do that, I think we should probably talk about what is kind of the central thematic idea behind episode 3 and episode 4 as well, which is this Hedgehog's dilemma thing.
Oh, yeah, that's the
So
title
it's
of episode 4.
Yeah, so they mentioned it in episode 3, and then it's actually the title of episode 4. And
They
it's
mentioned it in the
basically-
first half of episode 3.
Yes, they kind of say, and it's really just a scene of
Have you
Ritsuko
heard
and
of the
Misato
Hedgehog's
talking.
dilemma?
They really kind of, put like a signal on it, like, hey, this is important, this must mean something. Basically, in a nutshell, it's this idea that hedgehogs, being animals that have like spines on them, the closer they get to each other, they're going to end up hurting each other. As it is with human relationships, there's a certain navigation between how close you can get with someone before you're damaging one another, and you have to find the right distance because you still crave company of other people, but you're always going to cause each other pain. So I think that's interesting, one, in the sense that clearly that's what Shinji seems to be primarily dealing with. In fact, I actually noticed it seems pretty clear how he talks and then also just how the show goes about. What's interesting about Shinji is he doesn't really seem to be, his reluctance to pilot doesn't seem to be about his own safety. Like, he doesn't seem to be worried that he's going to be hurt or die. He seems to be mostly concerned about other people and how they treat him.
Yeah.
So like when he was getting ready to fight, he was like, why should I even pilot this thing? My father's not even here to watch me pilot it. There was no concern like, oh, I could die. Last time I literally almost died. Who knows what's going to happen this time? It was just like, why should I even bother? That kid beat me up in school. So it's really interesting that the Hedgehog's dilemma, that is really the dilemma that Shinji is mostly concerned with. He's not concerned with the dilemma of protecting the city, of his own safety or anything like that. He's really only concerned with how people treat him.
Oh god, Ray's gonna think I'm a total noob if I don't get in this Ava.
Well, actually,
if I'm ever gonna get some.
I say yeah a lot. I'm so sorry.
This
That's
is
okay, I was
jumping
quiet
to
for like
the,
the first half of this.
episode 4 a little bit, but when he has that confrontation with Misato after he runs away, he does mention the Ray thing again. Like, well, it doesn't seem fair that Ray has to pilot it, so I guess I'll stay and pilot it.
Yeah.
And then I think Misato snaps at him like, fuck off. You know, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. It's kind of interesting because that was what they kind of waved in front of him the first time to get him to pilot it. It was like, you're gonna let this injured girl pilot it? You know, what are you gonna do? And then the second time when he brings it up, they're like, okay, no, we've used that excuse. It's time to move on from there.
I love how when he got beat up, she just looks at him and goes like, there's an emergency. I'll see you there. Like,
Yeah.
Help him up.
And that was, I think, the only 2 lines Ray has said so far.
Yeah, I think so.
In the show, she runs up to Shinji after he's like literally laid out on the floor, probably dazed from being beat up.
I think she says yes over the radio in the first episode. Yeah, hi. Painfully.
It's definitely the only thing she said to Shinji.
She sure is a blank canvas, or just an unsalted white cracker.
Jeez. One thing that I wanted to ask.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm missing something. I probably am. But do the angels only attack that city?
So yeah, it definitely seems like. Well, this is, I guess this is only the second one they've seen in
like it's the only thing I've actually thought about now.
a reasonable span of time. But it definitely seems like the angels are specifically coming to the city. I would say.
No, that's fine.
I mean,
I'm not knocking
They
it.
don't really, other than seeing that there's UN forces, you don't really learn much about the other parts of the world. But presumably, this is the only place that has these Ava robots to fight angels, and this is the only place where the angels have started to show up. And as I mentioned before, it seemed like they were pretty aware that this is where the angels would show up.
How convenient.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I thought about that is when they showed the school setting, it's like, oh, it's like the class is empty, or like it's getting lower. And then one of them makes a mention of like, oh, they're transferring or leaving. I'm like, wait, to where? Right. I thought everyone came here because it's the safest city.
Yeah.
So that implies that there's other, at least semi-functioning cities.
Yeah.
So why are the Avas always here?
All right. Well, let's talk about. I mean,
here's a better point. If
not Ava's, angels.
Let's say people know let's say, for the sake of, because like Pat doesn't know what's going on, let's say angels keep attacking this one city. Mm-hmm. Why do people still live there?
Well, it seems like that's the point. People are leaving now, but it seems like it was a surprise to them.
Well, I know, but like, why are there still people there? Like,
well, I mean, it's not that easy just to leave.
The government's
your whole
like
life
anticipating behind the angels' arrival, and there's a good line in this in episode 3 where they're talking about how soon the angel has come. The second one has come versus what happened during the second impact.
Which was like 15 years ago.
Yeah. They're just like, oh, it's come 3 weeks now instead of like whatever like time period they were given last time. So they're like, this has happened before. It's come to this city before. Why would they let people still live here?
Right.
Why not just make the whole thing a military zone so that you're not wasting taxpayer money of destroying buildings and stuff like that when shit's flying all over the place.
Yeah, and as far as I'm concerned, like, as cool as the sinking city is, it's also not safe.
It's not.
Because
it's
the first episode, it shows
some of the buildings falling. Yeah.
So it's like, it's only safe to a degree.
Even though these 2 episodes are primarily concerned with characters, it seems like there is a little bit of starting to reveal, what is going on with this place. So one of the things we learn is that, on the one hand, it seems pretty clear that the second impact, as they call it, that happened 15 years ago, involved an angel showing up of some kind.
Oh, yeah.
But it also seems clear that to the average person, so like when you saw the teacher in class, and also that kind of dramatic movie that Shinji was watching, the average person thinks the second impact was a meteor hitting Antarctica, I think it said.
Yeah, melting the ice caps.
So there is some sort of cover story.
A meteor, because the teacher's talking about it during the whole scene where everyone's like, hey, did you pilot the robot?
Yeah.
The meteor hit the ice caps, the world was flooding, the earth was set off of its axis, and just like they lost like
half the population.
Yeah, they lost a lot of stuff. So
a lot of stuff was lost.
Well, it's not just like population of the human race, but also animal species and things like that.
They said the ice caps melted. They even said there was ethnic wars.
Oh god.
So yeah, there was a lot of
basically it was like the end times.
It basically
and society has now kind of built itself back up, I suppose.
Basically 2012 happened. The movie 2012 where everything's going to shit. That actually happened. I almost wish I could see all of that happen because that sure is a heck of a movie, but at the same time, I'm like also interested in like the recovery of that. So we're seeing technically, let's phrase it the post-apocalypse because all the stuff they're talking about sounds like the apocalypse.
So like, the infrastructure you see in episode 3 and 4, you'd be forgiven to not even know that this is after an apocalypse. His class is just like a normal class. And there's movies. There's a subway. He went to like the seedy part of town where there was like maid cafes or something like that.
Hot ladies selling you energy drinks.
So it's almost like post-apocalyptic. It's like the world ended, society collapsed, and then they built a new society, and now the story is starting.
Is that what like Blade Runner even is too?
I guess kind of like that. Yeah.
And
all
like,
that in 15
it's at least better than like Mad Max's post-apocalypse, where it's like everything blew up, and now we just kill each other.
Right.
We barely have water, and we need gas.
Right. Well, I mean, half the Earth's population was wiped out, but it seems like I don't know if the cover story was that it was a meteor that hit. It seems like most of the problems would be like environmental type things.
I know, but like people
like that.
at least know what an angel is.
Do they? I think they know now that a giant one showed up.
Yeah, like it's ambiguous to me too, because it's like they know, but do they? Because like that's why I'm like confused about like this. The first episode implies like this is the first time we're launching this robot out there, and you can't see a kid piloting it,
right?
Yet everyone in his class knew about it, and then you have like even though it's in the next episode, which we'll get to probably soon. Like there's a documentary movie that's sort of portraying it as a natural or a national disaster.
Yes,
but we've seen these giant things now.
So there's two things. One is if everyone buys this meteor that hit the Earth story for the second impact, there's no reason to think that has anything to do with angels or monsters. And the other thing is, even now that angels and monsters have shown up, there'd be no reason for the average person to say, oh, this is just like what happened at the 15 years ago. Because again, if they believe a meteor hit the Earth, this is a completely unrelated incident where monsters started showing up.
Yeah.
So again, they wouldn't necessarily equate this city was built for angels to protect against angels. Why am I living in the city? It just seems like, oh shoot, we just rebuilt things and now these monsters are showing up.
Yeah,
what next?
I thought we were afraid of meteors.
Right. So it seems like a grand conspiracy.
Is like the way the city is built and prepared. It doesn't look like it's built and prepared for a natural disaster. It's clearly built and prepared for something that's going to attack it. You feel like anyone would notice, like, hey, how come these buildings go underground? How come these blockades are put up? what's going on here? This isn't gonna stop a flood.
Hey, what's the big idea?
Yeah, basically. One quick thing I wanted to hit is, so Shinji goes to school. Remember how we were talking about last time that you weren't quite sure what kind of show this is going to be? So...
What do you how about now?
I still don't know.
We have like maybe like one like cute school moment where everyone finds out that he's piloting the Ava and everyone's like, oh my god,
that.
Shinji!
I love that because
You're so cool.
they don't realize what kind of show they're in. They're like, what's the name of the robot? What's its special move? And it's almost like Shinji wants to be like, no, this isn't that kind of robot
What
show.
are you fighting
It's a lot
with?
sadder than
knife?
that.
What's your special move? A knife. That's kind of lame.
Yeah.
Me.
Shoot a blast.
So, and like, that's what I thought more of this episode was gonna be like, but it's only in there for like half a second, and then the rest of it is everybody shitting on Shinji again. Quick one more note. When Shinji loses his mind and stabs the Ava in its like core.
The angel.
The angel in its core. And like then he's like crying. Not only is he crying in the Ava, but the two kids that were picking on him, Toji and Rensuke, they see him crying in the Ava. They see this kid who they beat up themselves, just like crying, losing it. He doesn't want to pilot it. And I like that scene because it really makes them feel like pieces of shit. And I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that, but let's first kind of jump into episode 4, what happens in that, and then we'll kind of go back to that.
All right, we're gonna put a tack in it.
Yeah,
put it up on the
episode
wall.
4 is
Yeah, I have something to say about it.
narrative-wise a bit more sparse because it mostly is Shinji just saying, "Okay, I have enough of this," and he kind of spends the episode wandering around, riding the subway train,
He wanders around, listens
going
to
out
his
to the
Linkin
country,
Park.
basically deciding to be done with everything, and until he's finally brought back at the very end of the episode. The whole episode is pretty much just Shinji wandering around, wondering where his life went wrong, I suppose. But what I wanted to say about his school buddies, who I guess become his friends by the end of episode 4, is this seems to be, to me, kind of a direct commentary on that Hedgehog's dilemma thing again. And actually, I think by the end of 4, it kind of wraps it up in a really, really well put together, tight kind of thematic arc. So if the idea is that people are trying to interacting with each other but limit pain, it seems like Toji, in his own kind of blockheaded way, is actually has actually solved the Hedgehog's dilemma.
Yeah,
because he says, "No, you treated me bad, so I'm going to punch you in the face." Right? Like that's like not what the Hedgehog's dilemma is supposed to be. It's like, no, you're not supposed to want to hurt people. And then at the end, when Toji sees the error of his ways from, as Kenzie was saying, seeing what Shinji has to go through, he invites Shinji to punch him in the face. So it's almost like he's welcoming that pain that's going to come with forming a relationship. And not only is he okay with it, I would argue that that's what causes them to be friends.
I put this down in my notes. Shinji gets to punch Toji. Total bromance.
Yes.
So I in other words, that as Fight Club.
Fight Club, yeah. In other words, if they had, well, and actually that's pretty apropos because Fight Club is, after all, about this kind of dysfunctional way for people to find a way to connect with one another.
Yeah.
But it's almost the case where if there wasn't that misunderstanding initially where Toji punched Shinji and then he let Shinji punch him, they wouldn't have become close friends. So through Toji's weird accidental example, they're showing the way that pain actually brings people together. It's not actually a hindrance from people forming relationships. It actually is what causes strong relationships to form.
Well, another thing that happens right after that, after Shinji gets to punch Toji in the face, he's like walking around, he's being taken away. Then Shinji actually opens up to the two of them. He's like pushing past the two guards, like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he's just like, "No, I am a coward," and all these horrible things and stuff, and I'm really sorry about that. And like he wants to like talk to them, he wants to confess to them.
Right.
Like, he's finally opening up, and the guards are like, "Can't fucking stop that shit. Come on.
Come on, kid. What do you think you're doing?"
Yeah, I think he said, like, "Don't cause me any more trouble."
Yeah, don't cause me any more trouble. What has he been doing? He's been very patient.
Yeah.
Well, what's the only trouble he caused? He punched someone else in the face, not you.
Well, at least he didn't have a problem with that part.
Yeah.
I labeled that section as Shinji says what we're all thinking.
Yeah. But I actually think that, that exchange with Toji presumably was the reason why he didn't leave at the end of the episode, right?
Yeah.
Like, he had finally managed to make some connections with people, and he was like, "Oh, wait, that's what's going to cause me to save."
I think it's Toji and also his connection with Masato, because even though, he's being... I like to think that he's being passive-aggressive against her when she's, like, scolding him. He's like, "Yeah, whatever, bitch."
So that scene was... to me, that was the strangest scene, the Shinji scene, right? That one where after the fight where he kind of had a little smirk on his face.
Yeah.
And he was like the other scenes where he's just dejected and mopey, you kind of get why he would be that way because his life is pain. But that scene after where he kind of had this kind of cavalier attitude towards her, how do you guys interpret that scene?
That one's kind of tough.
Yeah.
For me, while you're looking for your notes, I liked that. It made sense to me because my anger from the last 3 episodes of everyone like shitting on him, he disobeyed orders, sure, fine, be mad at him, whatever. But he figured out how to do it on his own. This time, without the cost of, like, it being broken or destroyed.
Yeah, and in other words, he completed the mission.
He completed the mission
as good as anyone could complete it.
Like, nearly perfect. On his own method, and, like, saved 2 people he knew.
Yeah.
I would, like, come out of that like, yeah, fuck you. You thought I couldn't do it. You told me to retreat. My training has been a sham this whole time. I figured it out. Yeah. Of course I'm going to have an attitude. Yeah. Fuck you. So I was totally on board with, I'm literally on board with his behavior so far. Yeah. It all makes sense to me in every scene.
For me, I think he was expecting her not to care. So far, everything that he has done, he doesn't get that much of a reaction out of people when he does things. For example, when he went berserk in the 2nd episode and beat the angel, and then he and his dad come face to face, and Brad had mentioned, like, he doesn't even get, like, a high five or, like, hey, good job, son. Like, he gets nothing. Yeah. They stare at each other, and that's it. And he doesn't get anything from anybody else either whenever he does something, but Misato actually cares. So, he's kind of expecting, I want to say, like, preparing to, like, not care about her opinion, think, like, she won't really care what happens to him, but she is trying to confront him and be like, no, I care about what happens to you. And he's kind of like, whatever, bitch. Wait, what?
I also feel
I don't feel like he's used to somebody caring about him.
That's what I was going to say. On the one hand, especially for someone like Shinji, because it seems like he's had very little interaction with people. Yeah. Really for most of his life. I mean, Misato mentions she gets him a cell phone and he doesn't receive any calls.
Also, like, what is he, like, what has he done since he came to Nerve?
It's almost, I get the impression that, like, before he went to the city, he literally
just didn't exist.
Right. It was almost like you just picture him waking up, like, in a cryo chamber. So they said he lived in the country with a teacher who was probably the one who was, like, his legal guardian.
They're just chilling,
and then he
flowers.
comes to the city and he's facing all these interactions. So I think this is true with all young people, but especially someone like Shinji who's literally probably met only a handful of people in his life. It seems like this is everything that's happening his very first time. And I don't just mean the piloting a robot. Yeah. I mean, like, meeting people, living with a roommate, navigating school, school classmates and things like that. And so I think a part of it is also just him testing things out. Yeah. Like, what happens when I stand up for myself? Am I going to get yelled at or am I going to get praised for it? What happens when I capitulate to whatever everyone says? Are they going to be happy about that or are they going to call me an idiot? Like, apparently they do.
Yeah, and even though he's acting like he doesn't care, like, after he hands in, like, his Nerve stuff, he's like, hey, can I actually say goodbye to Misato? And they're like, nope, no longer Nerve personnel. Bam!
Yeah, and like, they escort him all the way out of the city.
And then, like, the last thing that he hears before he's getting ready to step on the train is Misato's voice and her quoting to him, like, hang in there. And he's just like,
yeah.
Starts to cry on the spot.
He literally remembers, like, the one time someone gave him some kind of encouragement. And it's not even like hang in there. That sage advice. That's literally just like, hey, yeah, it sucks. I know, hang in there. And that was enough to be that last tipping that. And then also the Toji interaction was enough to give that last tipping point. Like, I'll stick around and see what happens kind of thing.
Also, think about it. If he got on that train, he technically wouldn't exist anymore again.
Well,
I feel like the hanging in there is like,
the whole city wouldn't exist because as his friends say, I think Toji said, like, I don't blame you for leaving, and if everyone says that you're at fault for the world ending, essentially, I'll give him a headbutt or something like that, he said. There's the realization that if Shinji leaves, it's unclear how the city is going to be protected.
The plot can't progress like this.
Right. And for people who, quote-unquote, care about Shinji in their own way, so his friends, Misato, it seems like they're okay with that. Again, it's interesting that for Shinji, but for other people too, it seems like the kind of emotional interdependent relationships are forefront on their mind, even though they're working for an organization that is supposedly trying to save the world from these monster attacks. That's kind of secondary to most of their concerns.
A couple of things. One is I like that she actually does end up showing up and, like, to try and, like, say goodbye to him or stop him or whatever.
It's because she's a good person.
Yeah.
Or and trying to be.
Like, kind of what we deemed in the first episode of, like, her being like, really, we're going to put a kid in this thing? And then all of a sudden realizing, like, this is my job, get in it. Yeah. There's, like, that duality to her character. I do think, like, I can almost defend like behavior-wise.
Yeah.
In comparison
because
to everybody
it seems
else.
like she actually has a heart. She's just terrible at raising a child, and why should she be good at raising a child?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, she has like a duality.
Yes.
So I let like some of her behavior slide.
Mhm.
Like we know her living style. She's
Right.
got
She
stress.
drinks beer. She
Yeah.
got a
Seems like
penguin.
when she's
She's
not
tired.
and she's just under that blanket for like the majority of the 2 episodes.
Me.
But
She's like, "Can you take out the garbage?"
yeah. But I like the like I made a joke about when we were watching it, but the lingering shot at the end,
Mhm.
it really gives you enough time to like kind of soak in the fact. I just realized this like after fact. It really lets you soak in that the only 3 people that care about him are there.
Yeah.
Like the only 3, his 2 friends and her, are there, and it's like, man, like good for him having finally
Right.
3 people,
Right.
Yeah.
It's
but at the
kind
same
of,
time, that's it.
right. I mean, it's bittersweet because on the one sense, it's like it really seems like everyone hates him, and then it's like, oh, but these 3 people turned up. You know, when he was about to leave, that's something.
Even his father, like
His father
another.
wasn't even in these episodes.
No, he was in there for one hot second. Rizko's like, "Oh God, 3rd child's leaving." Dad's like, "Whatever. All right, we're just gonna redo the pilot, and we're gonna have
Oh,
Ray
yeah, right.
pilot in."
Figure it out.
Yeah, that's right. He was there for 1 second.
I forget her name, the blue-haired girl.
Ray.
Ray. Okay. Well, she barely
Yeah,
talks or shows
how
up.
are
so
you
I-
supposed to remember her? She's dumb.
So she seems indifferent to him. She's not been mean to him. She's just been wounded.
Right.
And present.
Right.
Kinda.
And maybe like that's what Nerve is used to dealing with. This thing that's like barely a personality or anything, and it's like it just does what you say.
Check out this
But-
curvy
but
lamp
hold
over
on.
here.
So
They're like, working with children is easy. They just
So I'm not
they just
saying-
do whatever you want.
I'm not saying you're contradicting yourself, but that would be a contradiction to the show. You just said they're probably used to this person who
'Cause
just
they hate- 'cause
complies
they hate when he complies.
and just fights. But we saw him be like just a robot who just
and they
complies.
were like, oh, this guy's such a weakling.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
fucking get it. Well, one thing I want to bring up is we kind of talked about the second half of the 4th episode, but we didn't really talk about the first.
Yeah.
But that's because nothing really happens to talk about. It's brought up that he hasn't been in school for a week,
Right.
Mhm.
and then he wastes a lot of time riding a train
Well,
out
and
and then
it's
back.
kind of sad because it seems like Misato hasn't even been aware how long he's been gone. Like
Yeah.
she finally is like, "Are you going to come out of your room?" And he's not there. It's like he could have been gone for days.
Oh, God.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like lingering shots of him just sitting on a
Mhm.
train.
Yes,
Like
very-
and what you said, what is that the train is full of people, yet he's alone.
yeah. There's definitely the sense that he is completely. I mean, he's literally has his headphones in. He's listening to the same stupid song over and over.
It sounds
again.
like Journey. Like I don't even know the name
For
of
the
the
sake
song.
of the memes, I like to think it is
Yeah, Linkin
Eddie
Park. Yeah,
Eddie
yeah.
Linkin Park CD.
song,
Like,
it's
whatever.
really
Oh,
good,
come on.
But like, what's interesting though is he's been in his 2 friends' lives way less than he has in Misato's life, and they came looking for him,
Yes.
and then she lies to them,
yes.
who are currently the 2 people who do care about
Uh-huh.
him openly.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she doesn't, but she has a work
Yes,
care for
and
him
there's
and a
definitely-
friendship.
There's definitely a front and a guarded aspect to her, whereas his friends seem a little bit more. I almost want to say pure of heart.
Yeah.
they don't. I mean, Toji punched him. They're not perfect people, but they're essentially coming into the situation as innocents. They don't know all the baggage that's going on. They just see there's this kid in our school. He pilots a giant robot, and it seems like his life sucks. So we're gonna go
Yeah.
see if he's okay.
But it's like no one bothered to look for him, and then she's like, "Oh, he's gone." And then eventually
They sent them.
Yeah,
nerve
eventually
shows
they
up.
send up the nerve
Yeah.
intelligence.
Yeah, so
Kensuke and Shinji have a lovely moment by the fire where they're just like chilling, and Shinji's like, "What are you doing out here?" And Kensuke's like, "Oh, you know, dude stuff."
So there's a couple interesting things because snuck into all this thing where we see Toji going from punching Shinji to having Shinji punch him. That's an arc. We see Shinji decide to stay. That's an arc. Kensuke has this tiny little arc, which is he loves military stuff,
Mhm.
but he seems very naive about it, right?
Yeah.
Where,
like a kid.
right. And then so when he's confronted with the real deal, these kind of scary nerve agents, he kind of freezes
He's
up.
like, "Ah!"
Which, as he fairly points out, like, well, what do you expect me to do? Like, fight
Yeah.
them? But the other thing that I thought was interesting about that scene is Shinji out there in the country kind of being depressed. Like, that's why he's there. Kensuke's there, like, playing by himself and having, like, a good time. So it's almost like there's this alternative way to be alone, but be content with it. That's kind of just put in there just quickly. Like, they don't dwell on that idea. But it's kind of like Kensuke seems to be genuinely a relatively satisfied human being. Just being on his own and doing things like that. It's almost
Yeah.
like to just show you, by the way, there's other ways to live than the Shinji way, which is to be depressed.
More ways than the Shinji way.
Yeah, right.
On a quick note on that, we learn in the 2 episodes that both Toji and Kensuke are living without their mothers in their life.
I made a note about that. And you also, in the first episode, Misato said something about she has a very bad relationship with her father, too. So it seems like the show is composed deliberately of people that come from broken homes
broken
in one
children.
way or the other. Yeah.
And then we know that Shinji has a garbage relationship with his father. Do we know where his mom is at, or
you only know that he doesn't have a mother because that's what Kensuke talks to him about at the campfire. She's like, I'm just like you, I don't have a mother.
Yeah.
And Toji's is even more indirect.
Toji's talking about what happened when his sister got injured,
and
which
he basically said
he's living with his father, his grandfather,
and so he's
his
the only one
little
to watch
sister.
his sister,
Yeah.
implying by default that he has no mother too. So yes, it seems like everyone has some sort of strained relationship with either a missing parent or a bad relationship with a parent.
The three bros have formed the No Mom Fight Club.
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Pretty much exactly what he said.
Yeah, that's why I wrote Fight Club. Because it helped me remember that scene. I made a note about him going to the movies and totally perving on some teens making out during it. But what I did find interesting is it's a movie that's like, it's not like a documentary, but like a exaggerated retelling of the event.
Yeah, the way all the voice actors sounded, that's not serious. It's like over the top drama.
Right.
What do you mean the waters are level?
Yeah.
Oh,
so
God.
that's the second angel
It was like
attack.
he was watching the English dub.
What do you mean the water levels are rising? No, impossible.
What I found funny about that for me, and it probably wasn't intended, is I hate when disaster movies come out based off of real events, like actual tragedies. So it felt like an in-fiction shameless cash grab.
It did seem like there was a little bit of humor. Like they had this ridiculously dramatic dialogue, like "What is the purpose of science?" or something like that while they were watching it. It was almost like in the middle of these kind of self-serious episodes, they kind of threw in a little jab at shows that take themselves too seriously.
An in-fiction. What did you call it?
Shameless crash grab.
I love it.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that is kind of what happened with Japan. I mean, they did get hit by an atomic bomb, and then they made the Godzilla movies, which of course these Ave of
it's like reversed,
right?
It's actually a reverse concept.
Yeah,
because in this, kaiju are attacking a city, and it was a meteor.
Right.
But in real life, with us, it was a bomb, but in that, it's Godzilla.
Right.
That's interesting. I didn't even think about it that way.
Yeah.
And here's another thing is, like, a certain period of time has to pass before people usually make movies about, like, events that happen.
Yeah.
Like, you can't make anything...
Well, not nowadays.
The Boston bombing movie.
It came out, like, a year or two after.
Yeah. Went into production, I think, the day after it happened.
There's that 9/11 movie that came out.
In the context of the year that this came out, usually there's a grace period before you start to talk about...
15 years is fair.
15 years
15
is
years,
very
and
fair.
it
I think it's
seems
like
like
11 years or something like that. It's like, was supposed to be
Well,
the
I think
standard.
it's even more than... I almost get the impression with the way the teacher was talking that people are finally starting to get to that point where they're celebrating the fact that they overcame whatever happened in the second
like humanity is still
like,
here.
oh, we're still here. Now we can make movies about it. And it's almost like they're making... Now we can be like, here's a dramatic retelling of this thing that happened in history instead of something that happened to them like the day before.
So instead of me viewing it like the Boston bombing movie with Mark Wahlberg, which I'm not even going to get into that. It's so aggravating. Me either. It's just an aggravating concept.
Yeah.
Especially how fast it's more like Titanic.
Yes.
Where it's a dramatic story intertwined.
I think all of that's in there. I think it's complicated.
It's interesting.
I think the show is aware that it's purposely cheesy and fake.
Yeah.
So it's kind of criticizing it, but it also is part of the world building in that like it is part of society that there's this event in the past that they are now able to talk about in this way.
So people might think like, why am I so harped up on it and why am I talking about it? Because it literally happens for about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm so harped up on it and like won't stop talking about it is it's so good for world building.
Yes.
I think that scene is great.
No, it's a perfect example of all those little details that are put in the show because for people who don't remember, this isn't even the focus of the scene. He's in a movie theater, and as you said, the focus is him watching this couple making out. I think it's more that he's kind of studying humans interacting.
Get it down with the funky
and not so much perving on them. But the point is, this is literally just audio you hear in the background. You don't even see the movie in the shot.
Yeah.
And then as he's leaving, you just see quickly on the marquee, it said like, there's some title of it that clued you in that this was a reenactment. But that's really all it is. And we've had all these interesting things to say about it.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just great world building.
So this is the exact same thing that happened with the scene where the teacher's talking about what's happening, where the teacher, his lines are the background, and the focus is Shinji reading his messages, and somebody in the classroom is being like, did you pilot that robot? But like you finding out both forms of information, both in the same way where they're the background and they're both being told differently. So I can see why it even emphasizes more of how much of a cash grab this movie is, because you hear the factual stuff from the teacher and then you hear the dramatic voice acting of like, oh my god, the meteor's hit! Everything's just getting worse!
Well, I think it's even better than that, because the quote-unquote factual things from the teacher, we as the audience know that that's not actually the whole story, too.
Yeah.
So you're getting so many layers upon layers of information, and the cool thing about it is it's there to discover, but if you're not paying attention, or you just don't care enough about the show, and you don't listen to that stuff, I don't think it would hinder your experience of the show either. I mean, you would be a less rich experience, but they're not things like, they're not crucial details. It's just things that enhance.
It just makes it feel lived in. It makes it feel like it's a real functioning world. And I think
even if you don't, if you're not like us and literally taking notes about the episode, it'll seep into your mind somewhere. When it gets brought up again, you'll remember that people talk about it. It just makes everything seem fuller.
I'm just glad they're noticing all this stuff now. So before, like, when I watched this and I didn't like it, and Pat is starting to not like it for all the reasons that I didn't like it, where everyone's just a shit human being.
Well, don't get me wrong.
All right.
I got let me just clear that water really quick. I like the show.
Okay.
I don't like their behavior toward him.
So
that's the only thing I don't like about the show. But as a whole, of the 4 episodes I've seen, I like the show.
All right, so your argument with everybody's
it's because of his emotional investment in talking, the character,
like giving shit to Shinji.
Yeah, because it's like I don't have any reason to not like Shinji.
Yeah.
Even like I saw like people at the place I now work just like insulting the character. Like we have an anime Slack channel just called Get in the Robot Shinji. And like I know it's like a thing to like call him whiny. I don't see it. I don't see him as whiny, because whiny is like somebody who's like whinging and complaining
all the time.
For no reason. He has all the reason.
All the reason in the world.
So I don't see it as whining. I see it like maybe he's weak. Like there's nothing. I'm weak when it comes to certain things, and admitting that you have weakness isn't necessarily a flaw or a bad character trait. It means that you understand what you can and can't do, or maybe you're not fully aware of what potential you might have. So maybe he's sensitive, but he's not whiny.
Okay. What I wanted to get to was a lot of the points you made at the very beginning of everyone shitting on Shinji is a lot of the reason why I didn't like the show, because of a lot of people acting in just garbage ways, and a lot of them you can't really relate to. With Masato and Shinji you can, but you're going to experience more and more characters where he's just getting shit on. Right. And honestly, there's no good reason.
So here's the question. That's what I was just about to say. Like, is it their characters that they're harsh, aggressive people, or is it nonsensical? Right? Is it to the point where it's just like, okay, we get it. Everyone hates Shinji for no reason. I mean, that could be interesting, but that creates problems like Kenzie is saying. It makes it hard to latch on to these characters if at any given time they're just going to be as mean as possible to Shinji without any rhyme or reason to it.
And obviously we can't judge now how long this is going to go on for, or because like we're at episode 4. It's episode 4. Anything can happen. What I wanted to say is I'm glad that we're analyzing all this other world building stuff now, because when I first watched it, I just focused a lot on everyone shitting on this kid and not so much like the wonderful world building it's building. Mm-hmm. That one scene where everything is pink because like the sun is rising, it's morning, and all the cicadas are going off, and Shinji's like, ah!
Yeah, it's neat to see the buildings were going in 2 different directions. Yeah. It seemed like they were like spinning. Uh-huh. Also, Japan has like a cicada problem in this show. Like a serious cicada problem. That was one of my notes.
All these animals died, but the cicadas thrive!
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that would be how it would be in an apocalypse, right? The insects would...
Yeah, you're probably not wrong.
Still around. And penguins, apparently.
But that's the point that I wanted to make is...
Oh, yeah, there's no penguin in these episodes.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that. Why introduce this to me?
Penguin don't give a shit.
I think it's similar to in the Kevin Smith movies. You can judge how serious the movie is based on how much Jay and Silent Bob is in the movie, right? Like the sillier ones are going to be all Jay and Silent Bob. The ones where he wants to take seriously, they're not in it. So these episodes were a little bit too important to distract with a penguin, maybe, I guess is the idea.
But why introduce the distraction of a penguin if you know you're not going to deliver on it for 3 episodes?
It's so you won't know what kind of show this is.
It's I think a lot of it is keeping you off balance.
Because I honestly thought
it's working.
After the introduction of the penguin, I thought that the school episode was going to be a lot more lighthearted. I got like 2 minutes of lightheartedness, and then it's just like the angel's coming. Shinji's screaming. Everything is upsetting.
It's not
a
as
kid
heavy.
punched him.
It's not as heavy as you would expect a show to get in just the 3rd and 4th episodes.
Yeah.
Especially a show that's this popular. So actually, if we can kind of go back to like a question, I kind of left us an open question in the first episode, which is like, why do people like this show so much? And obviously, I'm not saying that as a challenge because I like the show. But it's one of those things where obviously the show is popular among anime fans in America. But when you go to Japan, there's literally theme park attractions. They have like a store where they sell Evangelion merch, not robot models, like clothing, like it's Sanrio. Like that's how popular the show is over there.
I'd buy it.
And it's amazing to me that a show that would have an episode that's essentially about a kid riding the train because he's so depressed would become that popular, right? It's just a fascinating idea.
Yeah, I mean, well, again, like I mentioned last time, the one character I know from the show hasn't even shown up yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know where the show's going.
Yeah.
And with the previews for the next episode, so misleading.
I think they're deliberately misleading. They have this happy music no matter what is showing.
Yeah, because
Misato's talking to us, telling us she's going to give us fan service.
Oh yeah, they're talking
but
about
sometimes she delivers on, and sometimes she doesn't. She's very deceptive that way.
Shinji's next one's like, oh, we're gonna find out more about Rei, and how come Rei's so much closer to Shinji's father than Shinji is? And it's gonna be like another show where I don't want to say nothing but everything happens, because that's kind of like what happened in these past in episode 4 mostly. Nothing happened but everything happened because we took so much time to analyze Shinji's relationships with these characters, and he's literally just like sitting on a goddamn train riding it all over the town.
So what I wrote, because like I wrote like the previews always seem to depict the show in a different way every time, so I'm going to generalize the previews every time as a completely different show. So like that one, like you said, you gave the sort of audio translation, but it shows like shots of Shinji getting smacked in the face by a girl, and then a bunch of other girls, then some fight, and then some more girls. So I labeled the preview as kaiju dating sim, because that's what it looked like to me. It looked like it was going to be some weird, like romantic, like episode. Yeah. But it's not going to be that, is it?
Probably not.
What is happening? What is this show?
Neon Genesis Evangelion.
But what is it?
It's about Bobots.
I'm enjoying it. And like, I don't know why I'm enjoying it so much. It's not like I want to dislike it.
Right.
And I'm not going out of my way to like it.
Right. I know. I see what you're saying. Like it's a very strange show, and it keeps you off balance constantly.
Yeah.
My guess, though, would be, and at least for me, is that amidst all the heightened reality and the exaggerated version of everyone attacking Shinji for no reason, treating him like crap, there's something in there that resonates in a way. Like, in other words, everyone's had that feeling where nothing they can do is right. You know, they're doing the best they can, but it seems like they're always making the wrong decisions. And even though if you sit down and you say, well, these characters are just jerks, Shinji should just be like, fuck them. It's like, when you're in situations like that in your real life, that's not what you do. You know what I mean? You can't just do that. You either shut down or you lash out at them. But that emotional idea seems to be something that, even if the circumstances are completely fantastic, something that everyone can relate to in some way. It strikes a nerve. It strikes a nerve.
But
I wanted to make that joke or connection for a while. So I'm glad
it's called Nerve. I guess I'm thinking Nerve like a nerve center. You know,
yeah,
is that what
creatively, yeah. But also, everyone is just on their like last nerve there.
Yeah, this is the last nerve.
Can we make that joke once per episode?
Why not?
Yay!
Sure. Just remember you have to do it, and if you miss it once, you're never doing it again.
Oh God!
Yeah,
those are the rules.
High standards.
I think I struck a nerve.
I cannot sanction your buffoonery. But I think though my anger toward. Maybe not, but my anger toward the characters being hard on them for no reason, I might start to like forgive it, because now we have at least a core 2 characters that are there for him.
His classmates, yeah.
And Misato is like she's doing her job, but she's also there for him as well. I can't speak for the rest of the show because I don't know where it's going, but at least like there's this sort of backbone right now that he has from these episodes. So it's like, I can just write it off as everybody else is just like super high maintenance military. It's like, it's got to get done. But But then again, like, he did what they wanted, and they were still mad. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm fucking going. My God.
Here's the worst part. It's like, they bring him in, they're like, all right, we need you. And then they're training him, and it's like, oh, he's leaving. Whatever. Even though he's the only kid who can pilot it, so they're calling him the third child, which means he's one out of 3 people.
Another
kind of
hint that they talked about. They did imply explicitly, we kind of talked about in the first episode about how strange it is that teenagers are piloting. They did kind of imply that for some reason, it has to be children that pilot it. They talked about this thing called the Marduk Report. And how, these are like the Marduk Report designated him as the third child or something like that, implying that there is certain children that have to be the ones that pilot these. And just to put a bee in your bonnet, remember that. Is that how
sure. I'll allow it.
Yeah. You remember this thing that happened that wiped out the world happened 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And all these characters are 14 years old.
Yeah. So, all right, that's a good point. Is Rey technically one of the 3 children?
I think so.
Because, like, she's decommissioned now?
Yeah, I think so. And she's in the class with him. I guess no one knows she's
I didn't know how old she was.
Yeah, so she must be his same age because she's in his class.
How do they not know she's a pilot, but they know he is?
Maybe they sent her that...
She's all damaged!
Well, okay, but remember
she
that...
could have been injured from
because they didn't know there was a robot. She just showed up to school injured one day, right? Presumably.
You have got to be fucking kidding me.
Also, maybe they sent her that thing on her laptop and she just said no.
Yeah, plus maybe Shinji's just an idiot. Why'd he say yes? I don't want that attention.
He's just like, I guess, because like a cute girl.
Cute girl asked me if I fight a robot.
He's already kind of like, you're kind of I can't talk.
Neither can I. Don't worry about it.
Honing in, I guess, I want to say on like, because he's at the age where his hormones are happening, like how he's watching those 2 people in the movie theater, just like going at it,
so
and he's just staring at it.
He doesn't know what he's doing.
Well, there's 2 girls or more,
and they're like tee
they're like tee, and they send him a message, and he's like, oh God, the opposite sex. Now's my chance to interact.
But like,
yes,
but it never says that. You can't infer that much.
They never say it, but the more you. I like Brad's way of saying how he's studying the 2 making out in the theater.
I agree. I also saw that. I know I joked saying he's perving, but I also saw it as like him kind of viewing like people getting close and how he can't seem to.
Right.
So like studying it, but also from like a perspective of like, I can't get close with anybody.
I think him saying yes is him trying to get close to his classmates, because it's been what, like 2 weeks since he started school, and nobody talks to him, nobody calls him, he doesn't make the effort to talk to anyone, and now somebody has finally like extended a hand out to him, which is one of the girls, and he's just like, well shit son, I gotta reply back, yeah, and then he gets all this attention, he's just like, oh God, what have I done?
Yeah, I also like the whole, hey, he's missing, good riddance. All right, go get him. It's just like,
I guess Misato or Risco dispatched those Secret Service guys to go get him, right? Kind of as a very
all right, bring him back in.
As a very aloof way of saying that they actually want him there. I mean, like, how much more removed, dispassionate can you be?
Yeah. But to answer your question though, I don't currently find it nonsensical. Mm-hmm. I've read stories where it's just like the main character is like, oh, he just can't get a break.
Yeah.
And that stuff's nonsensical because like even though like none of what I think is happening to Shinji is deserved, but I don't know where the show could go. It could be just like if we constantly have him on the verge of breaking, maybe that triggers something in him. So maybe there's a justification. I mean, you guys would know before me, but like maybe there's a justification for always berating him because maybe it might push him to the brink of having like some sort of breakthrough.
It gets his Ava juices going.
Yeah, like no, you know what I mean. I know you made a joke there. But like, I don't know. I don't know what I can compare it to, other than like Deadpool, where it's like he in the movie where he was on a constant state of almost dying and then not, and it triggered a mutation.
Yeah,
I think of it as like if he's always on the constant verge of letting somebody down, something might propel him to succeed. Well, I also don't
think it's a coincidence that the people he interacts with most, his classmates aside, are either scientists or military people who are probably not known for showing compassion and warmth. You know what I mean? They're focused on problem solving, on like, you know, treating things as objectives that they can
or like a
navigate.
Test subject. Yeah,
right. So it's not completely out of the question to think that a scientist like Ritsuko is going to be like, oh,
Oh, fuck her.
So yeah, some subjects does not seem to respond well to.
We got a kid. He can pilot it. How come 2 + 2 isn't equaling 4?
The only thing I know about that character is she scuba dives. That's not a job. It's a hobby. She was scuba diving, and then she was just a total fucking bitch. Who waits in front of the elevator an inch in front of it?
She does more than scuba dive. She wears a coat. A
Yeah,
lab coat.
and glares at people.
Yeah.
Like, fuck that character.
That's a
I don't
job.
care what she does in the show from now on. I'm gonna hold that bias. Fuck that character.
She's the scuba diver who never could.
That's a hobby. God damn it. I'm so upset.
Oh, no.
I'm sick. I went this whole time not coughing.
I'm so proud of you.
I'll edit out that.
No, it's
No,
funny.
you
You want to leave the coffee?
Yeah,
Yeah.
make her animate it.
Ritsuko is literally killing Pat with her.
Oh my
with her
God.
bitchiness.
No, I think that cough should stay. I want that to be. It shows that like I was able to be maintained this entire time,
Yes.
and that drove me up. Fuck.
Scuba diving causes disease.
God damn it. But I mean, like, look, I'm enjoying the show. There's some things that maybe I'm intentionally not getting yet because of how the show is set up.
Yeah.
I mean, we already saw in the beginning the first episode, and then into the second one, the crisis was over, and then they revealed what happened. So there's probably a point to a lot of this that I'm just not getting yet, and that's fine. I like wondering, but I will be upset with the show if some of my questions or some of the reasoning goes unanswered throughout the entire series and whatever movies we end up watching. If some of them, I'm not expecting all of them, but if some of them are not met, it will influence my total like view on the show.
No, I get it.
That's fair.
It's like the Lost thing. There's like a lot of good seasons of Lost, but at the end, if you feel like,
Yeah.
well, they didn't know what they were doing. They pulled the wool over my eyes to get me to keep watching, that kind of thing. Which
Yeah.
I don't think will happen with Ava. Of course, I'm speaking as someone who enjoys the show.
Yeah.
But what I think is one of those things, though, that makes the show kind of confusing and frustrating is that it's kind of interesting that by episode 4, they haven't really established a clear status quo. Like most shows by now, you would know, like, okay, I mean, there's kind of the Angel of the Week, but not really. Just in episode 3, there was one that he fought, but then 4, there was no Angel.
I was just thinking, like, is it Monster of the Week?
Right,
It's
but not really. And then it's not really clear, also there's the city, and then there's the Nerve base. Those are settings we go to back and forth, but then he left the city. So it's interesting that so early on in the series, they would have what would normally probably be the departure episode where he kind of like leaves the status quo so quickly. And I like I said, it's kind of a strange thing where, it keeps you off balance and you're never really able to kind of settle into like, okay, I know what to expect from the next episode. It's completely different every time.
Well, I feel like that keeps you from getting comfortable, and it also keeps you invested, and that's really important because if I know what's going to happen in the next episode, if I already understand the flow, I will zone out of watching something. I'll be like, whatever, I can draw while I watch this and not pay a whole lot of attention.
Go through the steps that you know that they're gonna. That's the formula.
So, like, knowing that there are questions that need to be answered will help me keep going. At the same time, if they are not answered, I want to say in a timely manner, then it will start to lose my interest as well. So, like, a good example is Attack on Titan. I used to be a huge fan of that show. I really liked it. It brought me a lot of questions with not a lot of answers, but probably a lot of good action. And then they went on hiatus for a super duper long time. And then when I read the manga, there's just like more and more questions instead of answers, to the point that I'm like, you know what? I don't even care anymore.
It's fine.
I don't even care.
It's fine to keep introducing mystery or have a consistent mystery through things, but you need to like kind of give the audience something to.
I think that that's the kind of the
Give me something to eat.
Right. Yeah. To at least show that we're heading somewhere with it. And the other thing is, and this is again kind of going back to Lost. I mean, they answered some mysteries, but they kept on introducing new mysteries.
Yeah.
Whereas this show, it's like we kind of know what the mystery of this show is at least. Something to do with Second Impact. What are the roles of the angels? What are the Avas supposed to, how were these funded? We know the mysteries and we're getting kind of breadcrumbs of where they're going. Okay, now we know children have to pilot it, things like that. So we at least are on the trail of, we at least know what we want answered.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of shows try to be so mysterious that you're not even really sure what the mystery is, just that things are happening that are not explained.
There's a term for it, and I'm gonna be very brief on this topic because I could start a whole thing that doesn't need to happen. But J.J. Abrams is the first person I've seen like say it. I don't know if he coined the phrase, but it's called a mystery box.
Mystery box, yeah.
So it's like you're given a box, you don't know what's in it, but you have all this hype and wonder about what is in the box.
Yeah.
and it's supposed to be this amazing payoff when you open it. But the problem with J.J. Abrams, because you bring up Lost, and we brought up Last Jedi, which I know Abrams didn't do, but he's part of the reason. He creates mystery boxes with no intention of knowing what's inside. He likes creating the mystery, but he does not know the answer.
It's like he likes the feeling of,
and that's
of
bad.
being mysterious, but ultimately the payoff is not there, or at least it's not predetermined, so it's so much harder to reach a satisfying conclusion.
But the mystery is the fun part.
Well, the mystery is the fun part, but you've got to do the work to make the mystery matter.
Yeah, you need to start with your ending if you want to have a good mystery.
Like every Sherlock Holmes story, you never forget who the killer was.
Yeah, no, it's like
there was no killer.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. The Sherlock Holmes goes, no one died, there was no killer.
Yeah,
but so it
was purgatory.
Yeah, so the Last Jedi situation is the mystery box, you open it up and nothing was inside because he didn't have an answer. And so if this show, Evangelion, doesn't have answers to some of the things, I'm just going to feel like you created a tension and maybe an unintentional mystery for me. That didn't pay off. I'm going to deduct like personal points for it. But in terms of artistic direction, the animation quality in the fights, the world building, the way the machinery works, fantastic. That's, I think, really my driving point. And I kind of relate to Shinji. I wouldn't know what to do in this situation. I would be worried about my personal well-being. Right. So I'm like surprised he's not, like you mentioned,
in that sense that like, he seems to only care, was my father watching?
Yeah, but like if I was in a situation where it's like, get in it, no, okay, we're going to put this like crippled girl, I'd be like, fine, no, me. Like, I would be in that situation. So I like it. I identify with it. I just have some gripes, but whatever.
Yeah. How about you, Kenzie? Have you felt more sympathetic towards Shinji this time around, or are you still on the fence about him?
I'm feeling if it's my perspective from episodes 1 to 4, I'm very sympathetic towards him at a certain point. But I also know what happens later on. I also know a lot of the other people that get introduced, and I'm glad that Pat's bringing up like mysteries getting answered and stuff like that, because I also know what happens at the very last episode as well as the movie. So I'm very invested in hearing what Pat has to say about a lot of this stuff. For me, I've been enjoying learning or like diving deep into it rather than just watching it casually, to the point that I'm like, I'm finding out more information. A lot of my memory on a lot of stuff is rough. I can remember easily the things I really hated about it and things that I really loved about it, but I don't remember things I disliked or liked. So this has been kind of fun, because I like a lot of the world building. I love the animation. I still hate a lot of people, and then I mildly dislike some things, but like, they're not like crazy or anything. You haven't hit me at the point where I've reached peak anger. It's been the first 4 episodes. How about you, Brad?
So, well, I mean, like I said, it's been a while since I've watched the show, even though I'm a big fan. So picking up on some of those details, like you said, are kind of cool. And just some of those kind of thematic arcs, kind of like the Hedgehog's dilemma thing, to kind of have it some sense of where they're going and seeing them play out is a definitely different experience than coming in it totally fresh. So, you know, kind of knowing, at least in my head, what the series is quote unquote actually about, and seeing how each episode builds towards that thesis or that idea, is definitely interesting. As we've said, it's kind of peculiar that the show is ostensibly about angels and robots, but the characters in the show don't seem to be that concerned about those things, or at least not as concerned as more mundane things like, oh, that kid at school beat me up, my dad doesn't like me. So to see that kind of arc kind of come about and know where it's kind of going and following those threads has been really cool to see develop in real time, I suppose.
It's a good time.
Yeah. One
thing I wanted to say, because I totally forgot to mention it, I'm still enjoying learning more about the robots and their organic side. It has fingernails.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we did see those this time. And so presumably everything the robot would feel, whether the robot can feel or not, Shinji feels, right?
Yeah.
So like
it's a link.
When those tendrils went through the robot's torso, presumably Shinji is feeling the pain of those things going through his torso,
some form of discomfort.
Yeah. Shinji gets to feel that.
That's rough. What a terrible life that kid.
Also, is it wearing a ring? It looks like it's wearing like a ring, the robot.
I think it has just kind of like on its knuckles, like these little kind of bejeweled things.
Yeah.
It does look kind of strange. Almost, I mean, it's such a modern design, and yet that looks almost like ornamental, like something you would see on like a bejeweled statue. So I wouldn't say they're rings, but it is a strange ornamentation.
Yeah, it's just a weird creature wearing armor.
Yeah.
And I find that so... I want to see more of it. Like, it's weird because, like, obviously you want the hero to like win, but I'm like, I want to see this thing get shredded up
So
more.
you can
I want
see what it looks like underneath.
I want to know what it is under there. It's obviously
Show
something
me.
living.
Yeah.
I want to know.
You've heard him again.
You made me laugh.
Yay!
I just can't laugh.
No, that's the goal.
But I found that like interesting, like just to see a little bit more of the organic
just the
side
idea
of it.
like how big that fingernail would be.
Oh my god, you
It's just
hide under
strange
it.
to think about. Yeah.
Also, they refer to the tube as a umbilical cord.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but that thing looked purely mechanical, so they're referring to it as something organic. I like the blend.
Once again,
it's a sick blend.
It seems like people at Nerve are a little nuts.
Yeah. Also, though the whole umbilical cord thing, 5 minutes of power to like power that thing, that makes sense. But what a bad system.
Yeah.
That fell right out. Like,
Oh yeah.
welded in better.
I wanted to say something about that. That pissed me off. How easy it was to just detach the umbilical cord from the
Well, if
Ava.
Shinji wasn't such an idiot, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I feel like a shit. Oh god, for a system that people have spent thousands of millions of billions of dollars on, it sure is flawed to hell.
It literally looks like those like
Only children
electronic car
can pilot
pump things.
it. Why children? Where, by the way, when you're going through puberty, all the chemical reactions that happen in your brain, you are clinically insane. Why do we have clinically insane people piloting giant robots when they can't even get a grasp on their own goddamn emotions?
Why didn't they have like sociopathic like trained children? Like, you're trained from the moment you're born. You do not know love. You just know how to fight.
Yeah.
And now you're 14. Go pilot this. It sounds like that person would be the most effective fighter. But that's because I've played Halo. and that's what Spartans
But I mean,
are.
if we're gonna go that logic, it's like, why even have pilots at all? Why not just-
Why animate? Why do anything?
Right.
Why not in
Those are beyond
Adult.
the realms of the scope.
I'm just saying, don't call him an idiot. You didn't train him.
yeah.
All right?
They love calling that guy an idiot.
Idiot count for the 4th episode. I'm going to start doing it. It's 4 times.
He was called an idiot.
Yeah.
Zero times deserved.
0 times deserved. And the one scene where I thought she was going to call him an idiot was the scene where he was like mouthing off to her.
Uh-huh.
And she didn't.
Yeah.
And I was waiting for it. I'm like, yeah, I'd accept that. Didn't do it.
I definitely think the parallel arc of Misato at this point is she just has no idea how to handle this
She
kid.
doesn't know how to handle kids.
You know
She
what?
never
I mean,
penguin.
But she's the best one at handling kids there.
Yeah.
She's literally the only one. The only one who.
I'm gonna be so excited for the later episodes on the idiot count because later on
I'm going to keep an idiot count and I'm going to create
you have
my
to.
own names for the previews from here on.
So the character that we haven't seen yet, Asuka.
I can't wait.
I can't
Oh,
wait.
the idiot is gonna jump.
I am beyond excited for when she finally comes in. I want to hear everything that Pat has to say about her.
I like me an orange-haired character.
Because
You an
believe it or
orange-haired
not,
character.
the full spectrum of tonal moods has not been reached.
No, there's even more. I feel like there's higher shifts when she gets introduced.
I think as the series goes, everything gets more heightened, more pushed to the extreme, more dramatic.
I'm just
So,
as
buckle
lost.
up.
I'm just as lost by you hyping it up as I am by the regular previews the show gives me.
so excited.
I'm excited. I can't wait to watch the next 2, 5, and 6.
You do now?
Well, I think that
Now I have to go. I have to go to bed. I'm sick.
I know. I'm tired.
Kenzie,
God.
the person who hates the show, is ready to watch the next
Listen,
episode.
I'm mostly doing this to see Pat.
His reaction.
You want to
to
hang out with me?
Yeah.
I'm sick as shit right
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry.
So you could start another podcast that's just like reactions to Pat, like a recap for Pat's.
And now I'm watching Pat hack up a lung at home.
I'm significantly louder when it's just like me and Kenzie.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
That's
Angry.
I'm excited for when Asuka gets introduced because I feel like you will get louder the more you see of her. Because I know I
Dope.
do. Like this is me quiet right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like none of the things that I don't like about the show have really come into play. It's when Asuka gets introduced that I'm just like, fuck this show, man. I hate it.
That's when it starts getting good.
I cannot
you.
wait.
All right, folks. I think that will do it for episode 2, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Peace.